Welcome to Small Town Snarks. I'm Joel.
And I'm Miranda. Let's get snarky.
He rakes and trims the grass. He loves to mow and weed. I cook like Betty Crocker, and I look like Donna Reed. There's plastic on the furniture to keep it neat and clean, and the pine sol scented air somewhere that's green. Welcome back, listeners.
You may have noticed that Joel took the top harmony today.
Which isn't very different from other days. Joel does like to take the top harmony when he can.
You may have noticed that I have a glorious, low, sexy sounding voice today. It sounds like I smoke a pack a day.
But you don't.
I don't. I'm just getting over a cold.
Yes. You are, but we're here.
We're here.
And we're functioning.
We rallied. We got here. We're doing okay.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. We have, for those of you who are just listening, you're missing out on the content of, we have a running joke in falsettos at the moment. We have a Savannah Shrine happening in the show, and it's made its way onto our recording set. So yes, if you want to see falsettos, it's coming up Labor Day weekend. It's happening.
Is it Labor Day?
It is Labor Day.
I thought Labor Day was in September.
It is. It's September 1st this year, so it's Labor Day weekend.
Oh, technically.
Yeah.
But Labor Day isn't a weekend.
Correct. It's the weekend of Regardless, the day after we close falsettos is a day off of work.
God, I love that.
It's that timing.
You're not allowed to talk dirty to me like that. I'm a married woman, sir.
It's just that timing is just impeccable.
Yeah.
And I love that it just wasn't planned that way. It just kind of happened.
It just happens. Wow. This is the first I'm hearing of it, and I'm very thrilled.
You picked the dates.
I don't sound thrilled, but I am.
Oh, gosh. What have you been up to? I feel like we haven't checked in a minute. I know you got some time away for a little bit.
Yeah. Dakota and I took a staycation.
Love that.
Much
deserved staycation.
Thank you. It was, I was at my breaking point, I think, before that staycation. Just really overworked in a lot of different areas of my life. So we took a staycation on Monday, did absolutely nothing.
Love that.
Yeah, I was just laying in bed most of the day. And we went to Hershey for one of the days, which was great. So, yeah, I mean, we had a great time. I got to rest. I feel recharged, even though I'm sick now, but I do mentally, I feel very refreshed, which is good.
That's great. That's great.
And you also went on a theme park adventure recently.
I did go on a theme park adventure recently. 3 theme parks in 3 days. And it was lovely.
I know, and you consider that relaxing, which is a little bit crazy to me.
You and I talked on the phone before I went on this trip, and I remember saying to you, I'm like, I can't think of anything more relaxing than going and running through a theme park for 12 hours straight, and I stand by that statement.
100-degree weather.
It was a beautiful weekend temperature-wise. It was like upper 70s.
Okay, that sounds all weekend.
It was a beautiful theme park weather, but yes.
Yeah. I know we're in your prime season. We talked about this.
Yeah, and honestly, every single day I keep seeing signs that my prime season is quickly fading. I saw a leaf fall today and a tear shed from my eye. But,
did they fall at the same time?
They did.
And the tear? It
was kind of like a glance up and I just saw it break from the tree and just...
My prime season is fall. So I'm excited. I love spooky season. And I love sweaters.
Yeah.
So I'm ready.
Yeah, if it could be 95 degrees all day, that's a lie. I hate super humid weather, but, nice 85, 80 year-round. Count me in.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
You do you, my man.
It is what it is. But, in any event, today we are discussing Little Shop of Horrors.
We are.
Part 1.
And we also have questions.
We do. I was just about to say, we've got some questions from our listeners. That really great questions. So if you are considering sending us questions, please do so, because we love answering them. But the two that we got today...
well, we got them...
The two that we have to discuss today.
Yeah,
yes,
the
prior
two we're
to
discussing today. From
Yes.
Jesse in Carroll County.
From Jesse in Carroll County, yes. Yeah. I'm going to I'll ask you the questions, and then I'll share my answers after you respond. Why don't we do that? The first question is, how do you handle it if an actor is portraying a character completely different from what you anticipated or maybe wanted in your vision for a show? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
First of all, we do our best when we're casting to cast people into roles based on what our vision is.
Sure.
So I feel like it doesn't come up a whole lot that we have a situation where someone just totally is portraying the character differently than what we had in mind. I will say I know we've both had experiences with being pleasantly surprised with someone's take on something. Yeah. Like they'll make a choice or have something in mind for their character's backstory that we hadn't thought of. But in general, how I like to approach it is starting off by asking questions, trying to understand the reason why they're making the choices they are. Because, like I just said, maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe they've thought of something that I haven't thought of.
Yeah.
And, asking questions, being curious, and then, if we determine that it needs to go in a different direction to stay true to our vision, then saying something like, I really love the fact that you're making these strong choices for this particular version of the show. I'm going to need you to adjust, X, Y, and Z so it aligns with the show as a whole. But, thank you for bringing these to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think anything that starts a nice discussion about characters in the show is a good thing. And usually, people are very receptive to that. Like, we haven't really had any issues where someone's like, no, it has to be this way. But it is an interesting question because, you're directing the show. You obviously want to see your vision come to life. But there's also a certain level of ownership that performers take over their characters, and that can create conflict sometimes. And I think how you navigate it is everything.
Yeah, and I'll just say along those same lines. So I adore this question, and you and I both know, and anyone that's ever been in a show that I've directed before know that I'm incredibly passionate about character work and supporting performers in discovering their characters, but also finding a deeper layer to their characters. I think what sets a show apart, which sets shows apart from each other, is that when people can take the time to really determine who their characters are and really have a good grasp on their character, it makes a world of difference at the end of the day with the production. And in my personal opinion, and I've said this multiple times to anyone I've done character work with before, is that I have a vision or a thought process of what I want a show to look like. And at the end of the day, it's an equal balance between what I'm imagining as the director and what someone is bringing to the table. I have never once in my life told someone that their character choice is completely off base, because I think everybody, if you're looking at a script is going to give you your basic level of what your character is doing.
Yeah.
So what I really love in this process is saying, look, here's this material, work through it. Think of some of the small intricate things about your character and really run with that and let that be your guiding focus. And come to me and say, this is what I'm thinking. And I'll say, yeah, I think that's a really great idea. Here's what my thought process is and what I really believe true. And let's find a happy medium between the two of those, so that way we can create a framework that is not only what the performer is seeing for their character, but also what my vision is for the character and for the show itself. I've found that balance has been really, really productive. So I don't really think that I've ever gotten to a point where, like, an actor is completely going in an absolute different direction than I ever anticipated, but I think there's definitely times where, on that first outset of, like, okay, I'm answering this character question, or I'm sharing this thought on a character, maybe we're a little bit further out than what we need to be, so maybe we find a happy medium or a balance there. And I know this has come up as a conversation, especially in our process recently with falsettos, is understanding, because we all feel so very passionate about these characters and the story, that, like, how can we find that middle ground in these characters that we all know and feel very passionate about? So.
Yeah, and it's a good problem to have. You want your actors to feel passionate about the material and the characters they're portraying. And like you said, as long as it's within the framework of the script, we can go off of that. And it's very rare when a performer will bring something for their character that's completely off base of the script. Yes. But if that does happen, obviously be like, hey, well, the script says this. Because when you're doing a show, the script is essentially your Bible for the show. It's like, this is the truth of the show. We have to work within these parameters. So as long as it's within that, I think it's really interesting. And even just the other week in rehearsals, I had a situation where we ran something, and I asked one of the performers, hey, in this particular scene, your character is reading this way to me. Is that your intention? And they were like, no, it wasn't. I was hoping to have it read this way. So just asking questions and having that open dialogue is so important, because I wouldn't have known that. I could have assumed, oh, they want their character to be this way, but the fact is they were trying something that just wasn't reading the way they thought it was. And through discussion, we were able to make corrections and have it read the way that both of us wanted it to.
Exactly.
So, yeah, very interesting question. And I'm sure, we'll have more thoughts on it as we continue to do more shows, because it comes up constantly.
It's always it's always a learning opportunity, not just for the performer, but for us as well, of discovering material in different ways. And, it's happened before where someone has said something about a character, and I've taken a moment and like, okay, well, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Right.
But it's very much so an accurate situation.
Right.
It's very much so a possibility within the confines of the script. So if that's what you're feeling about the character, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try, and let's see where we go. Like you said, it's much better when people are passionate about those types of things and they're active performers and trying to expand on their characters. It makes that process not only rewarding for us, but more rewarding for the audience at the end of the day. So.
Right, and we're in a situation where we've never done brand new material. We've always done shows that have been performed before. Usually they're pretty well known. So to have someone come in and have a unique approach is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've said this before, if we were just trying to, do exactly what they did on Broadway, well then what's the point?
Exactly.
You're supposed to, you want to look at the script with an open mind and have this fresh, clean slate when you go into a production.
Absolutely. This second question, I adore this question, because this is something you and I talk about. This is going to be the tea. This is going to be the hot tea topic.
Yeah, and I'm drinking tea,
so you're
perfect.
Yes.
I'm ready.
This is, I really love this question before I say it, for a lot of reasons, but you and I, before I say it, are so invested in these productions. We are dealing with set, we are dealing with costumes, we're dealing with blocking and directing, and it's such a really good question to have to answer from our perspective. And we don't typically share these thoughts with everybody, so I'm looking forward to answering this question. The question is, are you always ready to say goodbye to a show once we wrap? Or Are you ever left really wanting even more after the show? Or I'm sorry. Are you ever left really wanting more even after the stress of tech and shows? Do you mind if I
You
share
go
my
first.
thoughts first? Okay. So, the answer to this question is yes to both circumstances.
Yes.
I can count on one hand a number of shows that I would never want to do again for a variety of reasons. Either good reasons of I could never think of another way that I could direct that show, and I felt so good about the way that it was presented that I'm okay with it. I'm happy with where it was at.
You don't want to touch it.
I don't want to touch it. I don't need to do it again, and that's that, and I'm content with that. And then there are other shows where we go through the stress of tech, we go through the process of rehearsals, there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of things to have to work on, a lot of, we're balancing a lot of different things, and, for lack of a better word, you feel burnout from a show. And I'll be honest, one of them, and we still joke about it to this day, one of the shows that we've actually talked about on the podcast already, that I can say definitively I never need to do another production of it again, for the latter reason, is Godspell. Point blank. Period. And the main reason that I can say with that show in particular is that show we were essentially working on for a year and a half, almost 2 years, nonstop. I mean, there was some stopping in there, but that was our core focus for well over 2 years of auditions, and then running through rehearsals the first round, and then taking a long break and having to rehearse during the pandemic, and rehearsing virtually and figuring out a solution to do it again, and taking a pause to work on Puffs and Little Shop, and then coming back to Godspell afterwards, and what that process looked like. So I like to use the expression, and I think we both use it now, is we put it, once the show is done, we put it in a box. All the memories and all the great times and all the bad times and all of the times in general, they go into a box, put the lid on it, and you put it up on a shelf. And sometimes you put it up on a really low shelf because there's a lot to pull from, and if you never want to see it again, you put it way up on the top shelf in the back corner. It collects dust way back there, and I want it to be clear, though, when I say that, of there's never been a single show that I've done with this company that I've not had some form of a positive memory or great experience from. But some shows, you go through that process and you just are ready to just say, I've done all I can. The show has happened. Up on the shelf.
You gotta give us an example.
Of
what the people want.
Of a
show that you were like, I'm done. You already said Godspell, but...
Are there other ones?
I remember vividly one that you told me you were ready to put on the shelf.
When I was ready to put... A recent one? Within the last year? Or 2 years?
2 years. You want me to share it for you?
Yeah.
With Matilda, as we were approaching
I said
closing, you were like, I'm ready to put it on the shelf.
Okay,
put it in the box,
I would say that would be an example, though, of a show that I felt like I did everything I could for that show.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And, it was overall a very positive experience. At the end of the day, there was a lot. Listeners, we'll get to Matilda, don't you worry.
Yeah.
There was a lot that went into
Working with that
show.
many kids is not the easiest thing.
But I genuinely, in hindsight, I really loved that musical. I've always loved that musical. I was very, very proud of the final product. But getting to that show, 100%.
Yeah, there's a few, I'll do some examples as well. Into the Woods is an example of one that I feel very content with. I'm very proud of the work we've done on it, and I feel like I don't need to touch it. There are some, Evil Dead I would do again. I just love that show.
Yeah.
Now, when we say continuing to do shows, we should mix it up, right? Like,
exactly.
Sometimes do a different cast or different costumes, different props, whatever, switch things up. But that show is just so much fun. American Idiot is another one that I would do again in a heartbeat. It's the shows that you don't feel tired of, and I think that's something that is hard for performers to remember is we see the shows so many times. Like, by the time it closes, we've seen that show a lot. So there are certain shows that just we're done with. Sweeney, I was done with that one. I was like, put it in the box. I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to do anything with it. Not because it was a bad show. I'm very proud of how it turned out, but I just was tired of it. There were so many circumstances around, like, we'll get into it, but circumstances around the production and just the show itself is so long. And I was running the tracks for it, which is another struggle. So at that point, I was just like, all right, let's call this one a day.
Yeah, I mean, so you bring up the tracks, Miranda. Care to share any number of that show that was more strenuous than others?
Oh.
If you want to share some tea, I'll share some tea myself.
The parlor songs.
Yes.
And there's a funny video, I saw it on Instagram Reels, of this woman who's a stage manager, and it's like when the actors go off script and she's like flipping through pages like, where are we type thing. That was one of those situations where there were like 5 different tracks for that. Something weird.
It was really broken up.
One of the characters was actually playing on stage, so that was another thing to deal with because some of the tracks had to be skipped because they were actually playing it live. And no matter how many times we ran that scene, it felt like no one involved in the scene knew where they were. That's just the truth of it.
And I think those people in that scene would also agree with that statement. They were hard numbers.
I'm trying to run the tracks. I'm trying to press play when their hands go to the instrument, so it looks like they're playing the instrument. Because if I press play too early, it looks strange because they're not anywhere near the little like piano thing. And they would go off script all the time, and I was like, I don't know where we are. I don't know what my cue is anymore. I'm just watching and waiting and hoping that they give me some sort of signal that they're ready.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so I'm glad you shared that, T. I will also say I didn't really share a positive one that I, would do again in a heartbeat, but I remember walking into the final performance of Pippin, and I remember saying to you, I was like, Miranda, I could do this show every day for the rest of my life and never get tired of it. I just
and that is rare for you. Like you don't say that about every show.
It just was such a fun, ridiculous show. It was dramatic in the very best way. It was funny in the very best way. The set was so intuitive. It just was such a great experience. I alluded to it a minute ago, and here's the real tea, listeners. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I'm going to say it. One other show that I am putting on the shelf way, way in the back and never touching again, and I mean never, and it's unfortunate because I really am a big fan of this genre. I will never touch Beauty and the Beast again for a multitude of reasons that we'll get to, but I was happy at the end of that show.
Were you?
I was. I genuinely was. There was a lot that I really loved about that show, but it's on the shelf.
Yeah, we, I think you were the one who started saying this, but I love it. We were held together with tape by the end of that show.
Yeah, mentally and physically,
and not even gaff tape, like masking tape.
we all survived that show, and I think we still have the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was a tough one. Crucible was another one for me where it was just ungodly cold, and we had to move the equipment every night, and I remember just standing there, like, I had, like, a blanket hoodie, and I just, like, trying to move to keep warm, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready for this one to be over. The show was great, and people still talk about the experience of seeing it outside and it being a positive experience, and
that's all that matters at the end of the
day. I'm really glad. I'm not an outdoor person just in general. I definitely thrive inside, so being out in the elements like that and having to work was tough. It's tough for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jesse from Carroll County?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember what we were calling you, Jesse, but thank you for sending in the questions. And again, if anyone else has questions, please comment on our socials.
Yeah, send them our way.
Us. We'd love to answer them.
Anything. Even if it's a question that'll prompt some tea.
Yeah, please.
Send it.
As a matter of fact, if you have a question that will prompt some tea, we'll answer it for you.
We will.
It might be in the most Joel way possible, but we'll answer it for you.
Joel's very diplomatic.
Joel is very diplomatic.
I like to stir things up sometimes.
That's okay. That's why we balance each other out. Like a good character question or a good director would do. Or equal balance of each other.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready to go downtown. Downtown, where the council stop. Downtown, where the food is slop. Downtown, where I don't know if that was the right order or not.
I feel like we should take advantage of my lower register right now. I feel like you should throw me up on stage for something.
Do you want to be the plant? Spoiler alert, listeners. There's a plant in Little Shop of Horrors.
What? Not
just any plant. This is a man-eating plant. Named Audrey 2. We're going to get into Audrey 2.
Digested.
Yeah, correct. Yes, this show is going to be fully digested here on the podcast.
Can't wait.
Yes. So let's talk about our history a little bit with Little Shop. I mean, we alluded to it about 20 some odd episodes ago when we talked about our first production of Little Shop of Horrors, the illegal production, daycare production of Little Shop of Horrors.
Not really illegal because we didn't sell any tickets for it.
That's true. I mean, we didn't pay for it, but we didn't have to.
We were children.
I think my favorite thing about those productions, I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but my favorite thing was that we never had a script. I'm pretty confident we just watched the movies, and I do remember printing off the lyrics off of the internet. I remember doing that.
I used to sit in front of the TV with a notebook and write the script.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't even like we weren't doing the Little Shop, the stage musical. We were doing a Little Shop of the movie. I mean, that was what we were presenting.
Right. I mean, that's what we had access to.
Exactly. So let's talk about Little Shop a little bit. Why? So I kind of know the answer to this question, but why Little Shop?
I love Little Shop.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Plants.
It did cause my fear of dentists for a while. I still don't like the dentist. I don't think most people do. It's just an uncomfortable situation. I also, in general, just don't like people trying to make small talk with me. Especially when you have like a bunch of instruments in your mouth, and it's like, okay, come on now. Yeah. So that, and my parents were prepared for that. They thought, if anything, I'd be afraid of the plant. But no, I was afraid of the dentist. I thought that was quite scary. But that movie is one of the best movie musicals out there.
For sure. I mean, there's not a weak spot in that movie.
No, it is incredible.
Yeah, so I mean, that cast is stacked. I mean, you've got Rick Moranis, you've got Steve Martin. I mean, it is just an incredible cast.
It's so good. And they did such a good job with honoring the original material. And I remember my parents actually had the DVD version that had the other ending on it.
Oh, yeah, the alternate ending.
Yeah,
which
you couldn't find just anywhere. No. So that was fun, getting to watch it's very similar to the stage ending. Mm-hmm. They made it happier for the movie, which I think, being a kid and watching it, it was a little more accessible to have that happy ending. But it was neat being able to see what the original ending was.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie. We made the decision to do Little Shop and Daycare because it was happening at our high school at the time.
Right.
And I remember watching that movie with my brother so many times in preparation for them doing the show that, it was, a staple movie musical in my house as well growing up. And the idea of doing it and doing it on a stage and, tackling all of that I was so on board for it.
Yeah, we had actually, Kyle and I were really into it, and my parents, at one point, we went to a craft store, and we got, some pieces of foam and little planters, and we, made our own Audrey 2s.
I love that.
Yeah, we were very into it, and I think, I'm sure my parents were happy with that because they were like, oh, our kids are into the things we're into, and that when it lines up like that, it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I was very much looking forward to tackling this. At the time when STS was doing it, I was also getting married.
You were getting married?
Yes, so I was on my honeymoon for 2 weeks of the process of Little Shop.
Yeah.
And I remember, talking to the board about it, and I was just like, oh, it's, it'll be an easy show. It's fine. It'll be a fine show to do on top of getting married. Mm-hmm. I'm just psychotic like that. I don't even know what else to say. I don't know my limits until I find them. I think that's the big thing.
That's my favorite thing about us, and we've had this conversation recently of not only are we good at finding our limits, but we like to go just beyond the limits.
Because we have to.
Exactly.
By the time we find them, we're so far in it that there's no choice.
Yeah, we get up there and we just draw a new line for the limit.
Yeah.
We just set up camp for a little bit, and then you go back.
Yeah, and I remember we had my mom was working on the puppets while I was on my honeymoon. And we got back, and Dakota and Jacob were working on the structure for the big puppet because it had to hold someone's weight when they went to slide down it, when they were eaten.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool concept, but I remember we basically had to decorate the plant, the big one, on the stage because there was no way to move the plant. Once it was assembled, we couldn't get it to the stage. It was that large. But I feel like we should circle back and talk about auditions a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm going to be the first one to admit, I don't remember being at auditions. I remember the conversations going on, but just for viewers or listeners who are, either or, those of you who are consuming this podcast at this moment in time, if you're keeping track, Joel has returned back to the company. Joel doesn't remember the capacity to which he had rejoined the company at this point. I was definitely there for Little Shop, and I was definitely backstage for Little Shop. I just don't remember the exact timing in there.
Yeah, you were at auditions.
Okay.
And it was interesting. So we had predominantly female-identifying people come out to audition for that show, which I was kind of surprised by, to be honest, because there are a lot of fantastic, typically male roles in the show.
Yes.
And I remember we had all these extremely talented women, and we were kind of like, okay, what can we gender bend and still get the message of this show across? And I think people who are in the show lovingly call it lesbian Little Shop now. But this is when we were introduced to a fantastic performer who's also a listener, who I'll give a nickname to. What should we call them?
JoJo.
Okay.
JoJo.
So, listeners, you may have noticed a strange cut there. That's because Joel thought he was being cheeky and completely gave away who this person is. But we're going to call this person JoJo. JoJo came in and was such a strong performer.
So strong.
That we had decided they could tackle a role that's typically played by a male and no one would care. Mm-hmm. And we were right. Mm-hmm. Because we usually are. Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
And I also remember all the girls coming in and trying to sound like the typical Audrey voice. Yeah. And I do remember you saying this at auditions. You stopped everyone and you said, hey, her name is slipping my mind. Forgive me, please.
Oh, Ellen Green.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you told them, hey, you're not Ellen Green. Mm-hmm. We don't expect you to be Ellen Green. We would like you to come in and just sing the song as you. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of interesting takes on that based on that feedback, and it really let us see who these performers are. But I think that's so tough when you're auditioning for an iconic role and you think you have to play it the way the iconic performer played it, and it's like, well, if I wanted that, I would just watch the movie, to be frank. And another interesting conversation that had come up is before auditions, I had gotten a message from someone who was planning to audition, who asked me if we would consider a plus-size performer to play Audrey. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely, like, size isn't part of the story. It's not a plot point of the story, so we don't care. Like, whatever. Like, it's not something that we're taking into consideration one way or another. Mm-hmm. And they were offered, this particular person was offered a role, but they weren't offered that role. And it just so happens that the person who we ended up casting as Audrey was on the thinner side, like, stereotypically on the thinner side. Which was not, we didn't cast her for that reason. We cast her because she was the best for the part. But right. I remember this person just being like, you told me you would consider, plus-size people for this role, and, like, clearly you didn't. And I was like, no, it just, we picked the best person just happened to be that size. But it was definitely one of those moments where you're like, okay, I can do what I think is the right thing and not please everyone, still. And it was just a tough conversation to navigate because, I think with me and you in particular, it's very important to us that people are comfortable in their skin and that people get opportunities regardless of, their body type or ethnicity or whatever. And to have someone interpret it that way was hard because you just want to yell through the phone and be like, no, that's not the reason. But
I mean, that comes back to our previous conversations about, we are always maintaining integrity when it comes to casting and understanding all scopes of what people bring to the table, what their auditions look like, X, Y, and Z, and, like, that's always our top priority, and we want to set people up for a positive experience, and we also want people to bring to the show their best selves. And I think that's, again, it's not always something that people want to hear, and, you're not always going to get the part that you want, but we always have an open mind going into casting. And I think this show really does reflect that, for sure.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we want the people who are going to bring something genuine and unique to the roles.
Absolutely.
And I think genuine is one of the key points there, is we're always looking for people to humanize these characters. Yeah. And JoJo is a great example of that. I mean, she just came in and gave such an honest and vulnerable audition that we were willing to honestly take a risk and go in this direction of, okay, she's going to play this part that typically isn't played by a woman, because we were that confident in their ability. And that doesn't happen all the time, which is why we've spent so much time talking about this audition in particular, is because it stood out to us as something special. And that goes back to, when we were talking about audition tips and what that looks like, is showing your love for the material and showing your vulnerability in the room goes a long, long way.
For sure. Yeah, I appreciate you saying a couple of those things, because it reminded me that, I was part of that process. And I remember now having those conversations about, your voice and your inflection and how you're presenting yourself as Audrey. And I think that's a good take for all of our listeners, and the fact that, you never know when you walk into the room what people are looking for across the table from you. We very well could have been there, sitting there saying, we want Ellen Green. Or we could be the exact opposite, like we were, of just, I don't want to say the exact opposite, because, again, we were very open-minded from that standpoint, but, we weren't expecting people to come in there and present Ellen Green or, Susie Smith auditioning for Ellen Green as Audrey. Like, that wasn't what we were looking for at the end of the day. So, from that perspective, it's a good reminder of go in and just present yourself, or present a take. And it may not be the right take, or it might be the right take. You never know, but just put your best foot forward going into an audition room. But
right. And if that's not what the people casting want, move on, go to the next thing. Exactly. I mean, all you can do is be yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was from my memory, I remember that cast, and I remember it being so stacked. I mean, it was just an incredible group of performers telling a really engaging version of that show. Yeah. And, we'll get into it as far as, like, the rehearsal process and such. I think we'll save for our next conversation. But I will say, from my perspective in working on this show, I just remember being in awe of the full package of the show, given, the circumstances of, we're still coming out of the pandemic, but we were creating something that was beautiful in its own way, of just this really talented cast with this really quaint production of Little Shop. It was just so moving from that standpoint. And I spent most of the show, I remember I was backstage, and I remember having those interactions with the cast, and, like, getting to be a piece of that was really powerful, and getting to work with that group of people was really rewarding. So
I'd love to do that show again someday in a smaller space.
Yes, oh my gosh.
The theater was so big for that show, but we made it work, and we have some cool anecdotes to share there.
And something else we get to talk about is this was our first midnight
performance,
which was quite the experience. I remember, and we'll talk about this show in particular, or the midnight performance in particular, but we did a matinee, like a 2:00 matinee, and then the midnight performance.
And then another matinee.
And then the next
day. But it was a little
like a
bit
5
later.
o'clock matinee, the next day. But I remember us having that break between the 2:00 and the midnight performance, and what that was like. So I look forward to sharing those stories. But
it was something else. Anytime you're up past midnight, you're not a happy camper.
I don't thrive after like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I struggle. I will make it work for theater. That's what you got to do. But yes, that was quite the time. So I look forward to diving deeper into the show on our next episode.
Well, that's what we got for now, Snarkies. But we'll chat with you again next week. Yeah.
Or
chat at you.
Yeah. Not really with you, but
send in your questions.
Send us your questions, please. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for getting snarky with us. We'll see you later.
See you next time.